Welcome to Women in the Music Industry, the podcast that shines a spotlight on the remarkable women who are breaking barriers and making their mark in an industry that has long been dominated by men. I'm your host, Rob Wells, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on this empowering journey. Each episode of this podcast will be dedicated to exploring the inspiring stories, accomplishments, and struggles of the extraordinary women who have defied the odds and made waves in the music business. Together, we'll delve into the journeys of female artists, songwriters, producers, musicians, managers, executives, and all those who have helped play a pivotal role behind the scenes. We'll uncover the stories that deserve to be heard, as well as celebrate the triumphs, challenges, and unique perspectives that women bring to the music industry. Whether you're a fan of music, an aspiring artist, or simply curious about the inner workings of the music business, this podcast will offer a valuable perspective. Together, we'll celebrate the power of music and the strength of these inspiring women. So join us as we amplify their voices and together pave the way for a future where women in the music business are no longer the exception, but the rule. Today's podcast is sponsored by the Songwriter's Piano, an easy-to-use app for songwriters and lyricists to use when coming up with song ideas when there's no instrument around or nobody to play one. With the Songwriter's Piano, one can easily play commonly used pop songwriting chord sequences at the touch of a screen, in any key, in 3 different chord variations, all played on a gorgeously recorded grand piano. Download the Songwriter's Piano by Play Like Me apps today, found on both iOS and Android stores everywhere. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Women in the Music Industry. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, welcome. For those that are returning, I am so happy that you are back. And our guest today is a very good friend of mine, an awesome human being, and is one of the best guitarists I have ever come across in this great world of ours. I mean that. You can laugh all you want.
Oh,
you're amazing.
thank you, Rob.
Tara McLeod is a guitarist based in Canada. In 2005, she joined acclaimed metal band Kittie and has toured the world and recorded 3 full-length albums with them. In 2017, she joined indie art pop band No Joy and has since recorded 2 albums with them. Tara has toured with award-winning musicians including Shawn Desman and Fefe Dobson, who I love them both. She joined multi-award winning Canadian country music band Nice Horse in 2018 and rock group One Bad Son in 2021. She continues to write and record with all of her projects. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tara McLeod. Yay!
Oh, thanks for having me, Rob.
I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy that you said yes. It's great.
Oh.
I mean, I think you were just like so easy when I asked you. You were just like, yeah, I saw the immediate heart go over the text, and
yeah.
just, then you were like, yes, I'll be a part of this, and I have the day off, and it's perfect.
Oh man, I think we have a very mutually respectful relationship of each other. You're one of my top producers, songwriters, and I have so much respect for you. So yeah, this was a very easy yes.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I remember meeting you a few years ago when you came over to our house and we co-wrote a little song called Trampoline for Nice Horse. And I just remember how, well, first of all, everybody in Nice Horse is ridiculously cool and kind and nice. And
they are very much a product of Western Canada. They are the nicest people. It's very consistent to this area.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That was a great day. But I remember connecting with you on the musical side of things. And I just remember everything that I threw your way. I was like, can you try something like this? And you're like, no problem. And then you came back and just like, how's this? And it was like 10 times better than I could ever.
Oh, I don't know.
And it was, no,
I don't know about that, but we definitely dug in together and got that really cool riff that like defines the song a little bit. That was such a good experience. A very funny one when people ask like, what is this song actually about? It's like, oh, Katie was jumping on Rob's trampoline.
Yeah, we had a trampoline back then, and then shortly after that session, we got rid of that trampoline because it was kind of falling apart. Not because of you jumping on the trampoline.
No more Nice Horses jumping on the trampoline.
We got some amazing pictures on that trampoline. I think.
Yes.
Somebody's jumping with a guitar as well?
It was Katie. Katie grabbed your Yeah, she grabbed your guitar and started jumping, and we're like, I guess we better get inside and write this song.
It's amazing. But that's the great thing about songwriting, is that when you get together, the conversations start, and you come up with ideas just based on the conversations. But that one was literally just, wow, you have a trampoline in your backyard. That's so cool. Let's all start jumping on that. And it was it was so much fun that the whole song ended up being about the trampoline. But of course, we can't write a song about jumping on a trampoline. You have to relate it somehow into, real life, and how can there be a message in there, from jumping on the trampoline.
Yeah. And especially with country music, right? Like you have to define the song for the people, because it is supposed to be like the quote unquote relatable genre,
yes.
Which I like it as a challenge. I think it's a cool challenge in songwriting, because there are no throwaway lines. So you're right. Like we might have been inspired by the trampoline, but we had to actually tie it into like a real life experience, or else it just doesn't fly in country.
There was a time when I was writing with this really great songwriter from Ireland. He came over to write with a bunch of people, and I had him for one day. And we were having the hardest time coming up with an idea. It was just the two of us. And we're singing, all sorts of things and trying out different things, and nothing was really sticking. And so we said, you know what, let's just go to lunch. And we went out, and when we went into the restaurant, it was sunny and it was dry. And then when we came out of the restaurant, it was gray and everything was wet. And I stupidly asked, did it rain? And he heard that and just said, there's our concept right there. Did it rain? That's
awesome.
It was so cool. And he basically took that, and rather than writing about the weather, he related it to a relationship, and just basically like, what happened here? We used to have beautiful sunny skies, and then did it rain? Did something come along and wash away our love? And it was great. It was brilliant.
Man. Is that such a great part about songwriting though? Is like, you really have no idea where the spark is going to come from, or how you're going to tie it into your experience. But like, as long as you took the lunch, you probably got to know each other a little bit, chatted some stuff out, and then it just kind of like presents itself.
Yeah,
as long
as
you dig.
I think that the walls were up maybe for the first part of the co-write, just getting to know each other. And then once we were finally okay, then to say something quirky like that, did it rain? When obviously it did rain, there's no other way other than a flash flood or something like that. That just
so good
would have happened in a parking lot at a mall.
Yeah. Does someone have a lot of buckets of water out here? Or
that's right. Is somebody crying? Yeah. There used to be something from Mad Magazine called Snappy Answers to Stupid Questions. Do you ever see that?
Oh my God. Yeah.
That was the best.
Yeah. I loved Mad Magazine, but I also loved Mad TV. So it was very like two different generational poles, right? The magazine was from like my mom's generation that she really liked, and then the TV series. So like she introduced me to the magazine. She's like, my dad used to sneak me these when I was a little girl, because we weren't supposed to look at Mad Magazine because it was bad humor.
Oh, but so good. So good. Weird Al, I just read a quote from him where he said the very first time that he saw dark humor or just like the funniest thing that he had ever seen as a child, and it was Mad Magazine making fun of Dennis the Menace, and it's literally just this one square of a drawing, and it's Dennis the Menace running in, and what was the name of the old man
I know
beside him? I can't remember what. Anyways, he Mr. something or whatever. Anyways, he's running in with a skull. And he says to his mother, he's like, look what was inside Mr. So-and-so's head. Like, and that's it. That's the only thing that happens in there. It's just so dark and so twisted. Dark. Oh yeah. So dark, so twisted, but God bless Mad Magazine.
Oh my God. Jenny Slate has a similar joke on her recent stand-up special. And it's basically just think about the fact that there's all these skeletons in here. Isn't that crazy?
I know, and blood. Skeletons and blood. And
with all this slippery skin over top. So good. We're so gross.
Oh, we are so gross. I know.
I know. And then she had a bit after about like, imagine everyone laughing, just all the like little skulls being like, click, 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 click.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. I haven't even asked you any questions yet. This is how easily we can just go off on tangents. It's beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, I always start with everybody going back to the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Mad Magazine in there. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
speaking of Mad Magazine or Mad TV, if you ever get a chance, go and watch Mad TV's version of The Sopranos. That's been edited for the Christian Television Network.
Oh, okay.
And it's really, really funny. Anytime that they come to a swear word, there's an immediate cut to the next scene. And it just,
what is it like?
The show ends up being maybe 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
But sorry if I just gave away everything. I just ruined the surprise, but it's genius. It's so funny.
That's awesome. So, yeah. I will for sure.
Guitar, music. What age did you start loving music, or were you just like a little baby hearing different things? Just take me through all that.
It is a really hard thing to explain. The answer is I don't know. I just remember being a little kid and always having the broom and thinking the guitar was like the coolest instrument ever. I did not grow up in like a musical family. No one else plays music. I don't even remember it being so present in the home. So it is so strange that I was able to fall in love with the instrument and then beg my parents, and then Santa Claus came through. Got my first guitar when I was 12.
What was that first guitar?
It was like a crappy, well, I shouldn't say that. It was a brand called Tradition. I have never seen it again since. So not really sure, but it was an acoustic guitar, which I'm glad that I did get started on acoustic guitar. A lot of parents reach out to me and like, how do I get my kids started? Like acoustic, the end. They have to. It's difficult. It's more difficult than electric, but that's the bigger challenge. And if they challenge themselves and they can get their hands on an acoustic and get the feel for it, then they can absolutely switch over to electric after. And then another reason is then you're not buying all like the amplifiers and the pedals, and you're not making such a commitment. But no, I was really grateful that my parents did get me that acoustic. I was just in love right from the get-go. And it kind of was like my safe haven, because I did grow up as actually a jock. And I was very into sports. That was my passion. Like basketball was my first love. I was borderline obsessed with it, but also was dealing with growing up small town Canada. I am a gay woman. And in that period of time, it was really difficult. And I think for the city kids, it was also difficult. But I will say especially being in a smaller town that just didn't exist. And neither did the internet. Yeah. So music was kind of my refuge. It was my safe place, my bedroom with my guitar. And I got set up with a guitar teacher who happened to be a little punk rocker from the high school. I thought he was so strange because his feet were always falling out of the sides of his chucks. I know you can picture it, the look. Yeah. And he was constantly forgetting my lessons because I think he was probably stoned all the time.
Sounds like a perfect teacher situation. It's great.
Right. But he was so inspiring. He was you don't know who Alice in Chains is? You don't know who Soundgarden is? I'm 12 and I play basketball. No, I don't know these bands. And so he'd make me literally mixtapes and would be go home, listen to this. Literally changed my life. Probably Jar of Flies, the Alice in Chains album, probably totally shifted my life.
And were you still playing acoustic guitar at this point, or had it switched to electric?
Still acoustic. And guitar, he was very clever. That guitar was very heavy on the acoustics. It's kind of an acoustic-ish album, at least for them, or it's down tempo stuff. And then another I don't know, I guess it's a series of good luck, because and then this family moved into the house just that our backyard's connected, and the dad was a guitar player, and he said, hey, can I, and I was about 15 then, and he said to my parents, hey, can I bring her to jam with my friends? So I had to get an electric, and I worked at the local music store for free and in trade for gear. So I got an electric that way, which is pretty cool.
Oh, great. What was your electric? What was the first one?
It was an Epiphone Les Paul copy. And it was definitely a lower model, but for me, it was fucking awesome.
It's everything.
It was, yeah. And I still love that shape. I have an actual Les Paul now. So it is really cool that was my first entry to that, and I've really stuck with it. Though I love all the guitars. I am that guitar player.
My first keyboard was a Yamaha PSS 477, which was a tiny little thing and had the worst sounds on it. But it had this little thing on the corner where it had 5 sliders where you could adjust the sounds for like attack, decay, brilliance, all this sort of thing. But I still to this day, even though I'm surrounded by all sorts of great gear, I still love this keyboard so much.
You
it was
still have
everything.
it?
I do somewhere. Yes, I do. It's not busted out, but I should bust it out.
No, I still have my first acoustic too.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's at my mom's house in a closet somewhere, but
those instruments are so special, right? Because that was the first moment where you got something where you get to level up now into this other world. So cool.
Yeah. And as a piano guy, that must have just like blown your mind. Like that enabled me to join a band. This little tiny keyboard where I could actually plug a 1/4-inch cable into the back and have it amplified. And I could be there with a drummer. I could compete with a drummer and a guitarist and a bass player and somebody wailing on vocals. That this keyboard, when I played it, it could actually be on par because I was just so used to playing piano before that, where it would get drowned out by everything else. Yeah. And then it's like that first experience of jamming with a band, did that just like light you up?
Oh, totally. Sorry, I'm supposed to be asking you the questions.
No.
But yeah, this is a two-way street for sure. It changed everything. Just like prior to that, I'd just been playing by myself and just trying to imagine what it would be like to play with somebody else.
Like jamming along to the radio, and then you're like in the room, and I just remember that feeling, being like, "Whoa!"
So you were brought to your neighbor's band practice, and how did that feel? Did that just completely change your world?
Oh man, it was the coolest thing ever. And we'd have to drive out into the country a little bit to where they practiced, and he'd have James Brown on, and he was like teaching me music as we were driving, and he'd be like, listen to how I think it was a live album. He was like, listen to how he's calling out to his band. Did you hear that? He just said like, go back to the turnaround, or like, let's hit the bridge now. And he's literally coaching the band along as they're playing. And I was like, how could you ever possibly do that? Like, don't you just know the songs and then you play them? And I just thought that was such a cool skill. And obviously, I mean, pretty easy now that I'm an actual musician, but it just seemed like a little piece of magic to me that they could just easy for you now. But I think to a lot of people, just the fact that you're on stage playing with James Brown and these arrangements are very meticulous, and the groove, the pocket has to be so good that you could be so completely lost just in that element. And then all of a sudden you've got to have your ears ready for when James says, and now we're going to this section, and you've got to be on point and just be switched like that. And like immediate. Yeah.
Immediate. Because you never know where James is going to go. You never know what vibe he's in. And all of a sudden it could just like say, now take it down, and then you suddenly have to do an alternative version of what you're playing where it's very gentle and light. And then you got to watch him to bring up the pace. And it's a whole other level. And you know
what? I got like major hardcore lessons from, not personally, obviously, but from Buddy Guy, watching him, like the way he brings his band up and down. I think as like a live performer, he's probably my favorite because he is a performer. And it is like when he's playing his guitar, you listen, he does weird stuff like purposely, which I think is so funny. Like sometimes I think he's just kind of like screwing with the crowd a little bit, which I've started to do a little bit. Like it depends on the song and it depends on what the performance is, but I've kind of like adopted his version of like, oh, you guys really like this lick, huh? Now I'm going to play something really slow so that you'll be like, that riff, that's candy. Now you got to listen to this. And it's kind of like a way of being like playful with the crowd a little bit. Or like you just like can't hit a note, stop playing. It's very Buddy Guy. And when I'm able to, I apply those because
that's such an art though, because you again, you're such a master on the guitar, but then to stand there and to read the crowd and to see their reactions. Because a lot of people could just be eyes closed or looking down at your guitar, but like you're playing and you're watching everything, and it's like a really good DJ, basically, like just reading the crowd and seeing just taking them for a ride.
Yeah, it also makes the gig more fun too. Like I like to be like strum the strings, and it always sounds terrible, but it's always hysterical for me. It's like have a go. Yeah, I'll lift my guitar out and be like hit them, and they're like blah, blah. Makes me sound terrible, but it's so worth it because it's so funny. It's like the comedic element of live performance.
Okay. Sorry, we're going again. Tangents.
No. Okay. Let me go back. Let me go 15. Back. So So I was 15. I was jamming with like my neighbor's band, and they were like, how should I say this? They were way too generous. I was still learning, very much so, and they still let me come along and like try and hack along with them.
They must have seen something though. There's no way that they would just bring you along just for being nice. They must. I
will never forget that those guys did that for me. That was incredible. Like they are probably a very good piece of the pie of why I'm able to be here today, which is like, I never forget that. And also I got more music history. Like, hey, how much Led Zeppelin have you heard? You know, like, I don't know, like the typical stuff. And they burnt me CDs. These like this is dating stuff, you know, but sent me home, was like, learn this. Here's the Who. Learn all this. This will shift your approach to the guitar. And it really did. I play kind of like a 70s player because of it.
So they're playing you Led Zeppelin, they're playing you The Who, Jimi Hendrix, all sorts of things. Are you playing gigs at this point?
No, we didn't gig. They did end up gigging later. But that wasn't really their goal. It was just like, here's some guys that can play. And it was just kind of like a jam band. And the goal wasn't gigging. Though again, like they eventually did end up doing it, but I had moved on to my first actual band, which was like a cover project. And which with, you know, like every band is like, we're just playing covers and to pay the way before we're rock stars.
Yeah.
It was very much.
You're still living in your small town at this point?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. And then soon after I moved to London, which was pretty close, London, Ontario. But I did like the Southwestern Ontario, any small town that had a little bar that wanted bands, we were in there Friday, Saturday. And so, you know, the drinking age in Ontario is 19. We had to lie for a little bit about how old I was. And at that period of time, I looked so young. I don't know why they believed that I was 19.
It was a different time back then.
It was, I mean, there was smoking in those bars at that time. So like they were starting to roll through stopping like the smoking in bars, but there was definitely, that was a presence inside. It's very strange to reflect on that and be like, wow,
when I was in my early 20s, I used to work for the Bank of Nova Scotia when I was in my early 20s. Oh my God. And everybody smoked inside the bank. Inside the bank. Yes.
Oh boy.
It was just wild. I'm surprised the whole place didn't burn down, you know?
Yeah. Things have really shifted for the better because I do not know how our singers, like I was just playing guitar. I don't know how singers were singing through that, but that's just the way it was.
Sorry, I was just going to say being in a cover band is one of the best moves I find for anyone who's just wanting to get into music, get into songwriting, get into the understanding of how great songs are formed and crafted and just, oh my God, great way to analyze all those things, all the different parts, and then just seeing how it makes the audience react when you play these songs. It's real education.
Yeah. And like I said, I was not formally educated. So I really got my education through playing covers. And later I went back and taught went to see some music teachers about some music theory to fill in like a lot of the gaps. But it was a very backwards path that I took because I learned how to do it. And then I went and was like, can you teach me how to just put these things together like this? Like, I know this. How do I lock them? And how do I see how they overlap and how they work with each other? Which was like, it was such a cool experience for me to be like, kind of know it and then just have someone offer the guidance of connecting, which was pretty cool.
Can you read music? Is that part of the deal, or you play by ear?
No, I can hack through it if I really have to, but it's mostly ear.
I'm the same way. I'm chord charts only. That's it. But sheet music, I'm hopeless. Absolutely hopeless. But just all by ear.
If I'm really in a pinch, but I'm not going to be able to sit and read it as I play. I will have to hack it out before. Got it. Probably change my charts.
Yes. Okay. So the move to London, what was that for? Was that just moving to a bigger city, more musical opportunities?
Yeah, no, it was more like I went to college for a year there. I didn't know what to do after high school. I didn't really have a plan, which is not really how my family works. So it must have been a bit of a struggle for people to see that, but everyone was very supportive of whatever I wanted to do, which
it's so hard to know for anyone at that age to know what they want to do with their life.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I heard someone say, just a minute ago, you're putting up your hand to ask for permission to go to the bathroom. And then the next week, you're supposed to make a decision as to what you want to do for your life.
Until you retire,
Right.
like you have to know next year how.
Yeah.
I know I had athletic burnout from playing since I was a little kid, and I didn't want to continue in athletics. But I had found a new love, and it was guitar. And that's what I wanted to continue with. And in the same path of all lucky stuff, like lucky stuff and the willingness to say yes and being like someone who I don't consider myself like risky or brave, but I am like, when I reflect, I am pretty proud of how shy I was and how often I did say yes to opportunities, which is like, it's a nice thing to reflect upon because I know everything just made me feel like it was so hard. It was so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like along with that cover band came, Kittie's parents were their managers at the time, and they came out to a couple gigs because one of their guitar techs had flagged me in one of the bars and he had seen me and they were looking for a new guitar player. And then that brought out their parents and to check out a couple gigs. And it was your typical like small young band stuff where everyone was like, oh, we're about to get famous. They're about to roll up with the record deal and here we go. But
Fun.
They were, yeah, so nice to be so naive. But it turns out they were just after me for their band. So they said, hey, would you mind coming, jamming with the girls? Here's some songs to learn. Again, not a genre that I had been playing or like particularly listening to, even though I did like.
What is that genre?
It's hard to describe. It usually gets lumped into nu metal.
Okay.
But the band, if you listen to all the albums, there's like a lot of different elements of different kinds of heavy style music.
Okay.
So it is, but the band as a whole seems to get lumped into the nu metal category, which is fine. It's cool. We can be in.
Were you the only guitarist in the band, or were there multiple guitarists?
No, the singer also plays guitar.
Okay.
And so it's always been consistently a 4-piece. They toured as a 3-piece for a couple tours before my time. Mm-hmm. But then they decided they needed to get like a consistent second guitar player. And so, yeah, I just showed up to their house, thought I was there for an audition. They said, all right, cool. You want to do this again next week or whatever? So I just kept returning to the house, and then we got a new bass player. And then she reached out to me and was like, am I in the band? What's going on? Why do I keep coming to these rehearsals? And I was like, man, I don't even know if I'm in this band, but they keep saying come back. So I'm coming back. And so, yeah, we ended up heading out on like a crazy adventure of a lifetime. This is not the order that things are supposed to happen to but like I was 21 years old. And I walked right onto my first tour. I walked onto a tour bus when we had like techs and the shows were enormous. And I fully know that that's not the path that everyone takes. I have since done the grueling tours and the like sleeping on couches and all that jazz. Luckily at the time I was being reminded by everyone, like, this is not how it goes. Don't think that this is how it goes. Like, okay, I believe you.
Right.
But yeah, that was a wild adventure. It was a really great way to spend your 20s. I'll say that.
Was it cross Canada? Was it throughout the world? Where did you tour?
Actually, almost never in Canada. The perception is that Kittie is a US based band, but we're actually a London, Ontario based band. The Canadian music industry did not embrace the band at first. They were not supportive at all. There was like when they first started, there was like even their high school wouldn't give them away programs, and they would be like, but why do the athletes get the away programs, but we can't have them? We're going on Ozfest. Like, we've been invited to Ozfest. It's Ozzy Osbourne's festival.
Wow.
It tours throughout the States, and they refused to give them away programs. And so they dropped out of high school and they went and did it. They took the risk. It was a pretty good gamble. It worked out for them. But yeah, it was mostly US and a lot of Europe.
And at the age of 21, had you ever traveled across the US? Had you ever been to Europe at all? No.
I went to like Florida a couple of times with my family. I'd never been to Europe before. We ended up in Australia. It was, what an adventure.
Was it grueling, the schedule? Like, were you playing night after night? Did you have days off? Okay.
No. In fact, the last tour that we did, I mean, this is like when things kind of like slid. It was a tough one. We got sent out for 2 months without any days off and no techs. So we are our own techs and carrying our own gear. And because of the way that the band started, we had like, the Clydesdale cases and the fridge bass cab and all that jazz. And sometimes venues have stairs. It was a tough one. And I think after that one, we were like, as a band, we were pretty morally bankrupt. And that's when we were like, okay, we gotta put this on pause for a little bit, at least regroup, see what's going on. And then for me, my next piece of luck was I got a call from a music director in Toronto and said, hey, we'd like you to come audition for Shawn Desman for his live band. And I said, I'm on my last tour at the moment with my band until further notice. I can't make it. And they were like, okay, well, thanks. We'll keep you in mind for something else later, maybe. And I never had the guts to do this before, but when I got home, I followed up. I wrote the email and said, hey, just wondering how auditions went. Did you find someone? Just checking in. And they said, actually, we didn't. Did you want to just come join the band then? Like, okay.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Shawn's great too. Shawn's a lovely, hilarious guy. Very,
I love that guy so much. Yeah. I love that guy so much. I had such an amazing time with him. And what's the difference going from Kittie to Shawn Desman? Like polar opposites completely. Dude, I went from a Kittie stage to like a stage where I had to be careful to not get hit by dancers and to not hit dancers with my guitar. It was wild. It was such a trip, man. But I was like, cool, what is my life? Don't know, but this is cool. Let's go.
And what year was this with Shawn? Was this just as he was getting started with Shook and songs like that?
So it was after that. So It was 2012 because I toured with Kittie 2005 through to 2012, basically nonstop too. And then jumped into his band, and there were so many differences, and it felt like, honestly, it felt like luxury because we were doing these grueling tours where we go out for a couple months. And then I went to this and I was like, one gig at a time. And then I take a plane there and I have a hotel room. Oh, that's,
and you're not sharing that hotel room with anyone?
Yeah. Yeah. And also like shower every single day. Okay. I know that sounds so ridiculous, meals? But yeah, like for real.
Wow. And so you on guitar, and then I would assume a heavy synth presence. Maybe
what? Do you know what? It was right at the time where people were shifting to tracks, and it really does. It's unfortunate. They did bring in a synth player at first. Unfortunately, that player just didn't work out.
Okay.
They weren't lots of reasons for things to not work out. Yeah. And so the MD suggested to move everything to tracks, which I don't know, it sucks for our synth player pals. But it also cut down on costs, which was, preferable to their management, I think.
Sure.
So it was actually just a three piece band.
Drums, guitar, and
bass.
And bass. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then all synth went to track.
Yeah. And like the reason for not for swapping out the bass player for the synth player is because like the imaging of it, they wanted like the quote unquote rock band. Okay. And so, which is kind of cool. I think he kind of got there a little before the fad started to take over with the rock band, with the pop. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty cool move on Shawn's part. And he really felt passionately that he wanted that, and he still wanted his dancers. And so it was a whole lot of people. and we functioned as a little family. And like really, truly, we all were like a little family on tour. That was some of the most fun tours I've had.
He's a great person and just a real lovely person. I would imagine that you would be treated like royalty on a tour like that.
Yeah. And especially I was like the only girl, even though, you know, I am definitely just one of the players, you know, but he was like what they definitely went out of their way to make sure I was comfortable too, which was extremely appreciated. And yeah, I just love Shawn, like his attitude in life. Like he's so positive, and he definitely like he's been accused of being gay a lot. And I know that is tough for a lot of straight men. He takes pride in that, which I think for me, that was the coolest reaction to that. Because, you know, like you've seen, like a lot of guys would be like, I don't have a problem with it, but I am not gay. And Shawn's like, cool. If you men want to hit on me. That's cool. I mean, I'm married. He's married.
Of course, like, happily married. So,
very happily married. He's got a babe of a wife and like kids. Like they're a great family. Yeah. And he's like, whatever, dudes, help yourself. I think it's a really cool attitude.
It's another fan. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Okay, Shawn Desman, and then Fefe Dobson comes along shortly after, or is it like was there something else in between?
No, I was mostly working with Shawn, and then like the odd artist in Toronto. I had moved to Toronto by this time, and you know, like the odd artist in between, but those were like my go-tos, who I saved my schedule for. And then Fefe had also the drummer and the bass player in her band, and she had mentioned that she was thinking about taking on like a female guitar player, and they were like, say no more, we've got her. And so I was on the East Coast. I think I was in Newfoundland one night finishing up a tour with Shawn with the Andrew and Randy from the band, and we had to get on a plane the next morning, fly to Toronto, and do, I think it was the Jingle Ball. With like my first gig with Fefe was at the ACC.
Wow.
The Air Canada Center. It was
in front of 20,000+ people.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it was like a TV performance. So I think we only played 3 or 4 songs, but so that was like workload was low. You could kind of ease into it, but I don't think. Did you
have much time to rehearse at all, or was it just kind of like?
We did not rehearse, Rob. Of course we didn't. Of course not.
It's rock and roll.
They're like, here's the songs. If you can play them, you're in. If you can't, we'll never call you again. That's the bar. Wow. Yeah. And was it a different look? Like, did you have to dress differently for Fefe as opposed to Shawn? Yeah, she wanted a bit more of like a gothic vibe for that. And then, but then it all kinds of blends into rock after that. And yeah, I love Fefe. She's an incredible performer. She is like, in my opinion, someone who should be like just worldwide.
Absolutely.
Because, oh my God, she lights the stage on fire. She's a great singer. She's fun to work with too. Like she's a really grounded, nice person.
My only experience with her is I sat beside her on a couch for an hour as we were being interviewed for women in the studio. And there were a whole bunch of the participants in there. And they were asking us questions and we're answering. And it was just so amazing. Like just her personality is so huge, and just, you need that in order to rock a stage for 2 hours. And it just like, as soon as she walked in the room, it's just all eyes go to her. And just whenever she speaks, everyone stops talking and they listen to her, because it's really, really incredible. And I agree. She should be absolutely massive around the world.
Yeah. And like, man, it was so cool getting to know her. And like, she is a music fan. Like you can talk music with that woman for hours. She knows her stuff. She like comes from a very pure place of music. And it is really cool because like she's been through the machine. She was the pop artist when stuff was still, I mean, I'm sure it still has its problems and complications, but you know, for the period of time that she went through, it was a little extra bad. Like she's a Black woman. The racism was it was like, I don't understand how people couldn't embrace her as a rocker just because she's Black. One of the biggest rock stars to ever live, Jimi Hendrix, was Black. It does not compute to me, but that is something that some of the feedback that she was getting, where it's like, this is just obnoxious. Like that should have nothing to do with it. She's incredible. This is so wild that like the imaging is getting in the way so much because she's Black. Like, what is the hang up, people? Listen to this woman. Like, she's an incredible writer too. Like, she writes her stuff. She's involved in all of it. She's like, I don't know. Obviously, I have a lot of respect for Fefe.
But I mean, that should really be it, though. It's just like, does the music move you or does it not?
Yep.
And if it does, who cares what the person looks like? Who cares? Does the music? What is it that you're getting into? Is it the image or is it the music? And it's just anybody should be able to make whatever music inspires them, whatever they love.
Anyone who looks anyway, but like, she also is a beautiful woman. Like, are you telling me you can't sell this? Are you crazy? This is like, she's a package, man.
I even heard Tina Turner basically, like, she left America to go live in Europe, where people were way more accepting of her as a rock artist. You know?
So crazy.
And she just said, that's where my fans are. So that's why I live in I think Switzerland. That's where she was living before she passed away for many decades in there. She left America completely because same sort of thing. It's just, you know, you don't look like the kind of music that you make.
Wow.
What is that?
I know. Like, yeah, I know. That's a whole other conversation, right? Like, that is just bizarre to me.
Yeah.
The marketing side of shit is like,
oh, I know.
Come on, guys.
That is a whole other conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We could do a part 2 on that for sure.
Yeah. On how weird that is and how, like, upon reflection, there are some artists who, if released today, we'd never have heard from them, which is absurd.
Yeah.
They're some of the best singers in the world, would never have been given a chance because of some part of their physical appearance. It's crazy.
I think things are coming around, though. I hope and pray that things are beginning to see signs that just there's a lot more acceptance for people. It's more about, you know, I hope that it's much more about the music for people now.
I hope you're right. I think that any scene out of all the scenes, the indie scene is really picking up, like where like the more commercial side of music seems to have dropped things. Like the indie scene, if you look into that, like we're talking about women, look at how many women are just crushing that scene. It is incredible. And it's all shapes and sizes, all races. It is awesome to see what's happening there. And they've got huge fan bases too. Like they're really crushing it. They're really doing it.
Love it. Love it. So with Fefe, you did the big show, you did the Jingle Ball, and then did that balloon out into big tours that you were doing with
So I think we only hopped onto one tour the whole time, but then it was much like the gig with Shawn would be like, fly in for this festival. And then she kind of reset her career a little bit. She took some time, did a different project for a little bit. It was a little bit more close to the music that she grew up on. So I think that was like a really wise decision for her because it was something that she needed to get out and needed to like get out of her system too. And then now she's back in the Fefe Dobson project. And so I jump in the band when I can. That one's a little bit more tough because I'm just not really available anymore. I'm a little bit too busy with my own projects.
Very busy person. That's for sure.
I'm trying to spread myself out as much as I can. But here's the problem. I love it all. I love it all. I get to play in 4 different bands that have 4 different genres. And I love it all so much. And people always ask, like, what kind of a guitar player are you? Like, how do you do this? Like, I have no clue. I don't know. But as long as I get invited back, I'm still going to go.
Yeah. You're so blessed. You get to wake up every day and make music. It's fantastic. What a life.
I know. I take zero of it for granted. It is like I am, again, upon like aging and reflection, you know, I am able to look behind me and be like, holy shit, how'd that happen? You know, and like how I'm so lucky. Like I feel like, I don't know if you ever get this because, you know, we do work really hard. Okay. It is, but we're still playing music, man. So like, sometimes I'm like, when's everyone going to find out that I've tricked people I've tricked the world into like, I don't have to get a real job.
Yeah, it's true. We have worked really hard to get to where we are and we're still working hard until they lower us into the ground. Right. But it's just the working hard part is working hard at music. So it's a heck of a lot of fun as you're working hard.
Yeah. I know. Like, I feel like as a young person, I always wanted to like, be like, no, this is hard work. You know, like this is tough. this is like, like respect me, and respect my work, but now like looking back, I can be a little bit more like, wow, I'm so grateful that my hard work is for something that gives me so much pleasure.
Yes.
Like, yeah, one of my pals called me a workaholic the other day, and I was like, oh, I've never really considered myself that, because every day I get up and I get to do something with music. And that is,
I think that's just, we're both the same, that it's the equivalent to breathing.
Yeah.
If you take the music out of our lives, that's our soul almost just being taken out of our bodies.
I could not agree with you more. It is a really scary thought for me, is if it ever all went away, I'd be in a pretty tough space. So, but the nice thing is, like, it can't all go away, because you can always grab your keyboard. I can always grab my guitar and sit in a room. I still got it. Like, you could still, doesn't matter if no one's listening.
Even if they have to amputate both my arms at some point, I will still find a way. I will play the keyboard with my nose. I'll do something. I'll find an app that I can just control, and with some part of my body is just, you can't, unless my brain is just not functioning at all. I will still be doing music in one way or another. And I think my last thing that I'll say before I die is probably like, but wait, there's that song I need to finish or something.
I know, but and then just to add on to that, like when people are like, retirements, like, I don't know. I can imagine retirement. No, thank you.
No.
Pass.
What retirement?
Yeah.
I would do this for free. I would just
I want to be the old lady in the bar still hacking it out on her guitar. That's cool with me.
Oh, yeah.
Totally fine.
Yes. Yeah. So great. So great. Okay. But I feel like we're just at the halfway point of your story right now, because there's so much more. There's so much more that you've done.
Well, everything kind of just rolls after that. So like after that, I started working with No Joy, an indie band from Montreal. And that was honestly it's such a cool project for me. It's like a playground. It's like, it's the person whose project it is Jasmine Whiteglass. And she is sisters with another pal of mine in music, Elisa. And I had toured with Elisa in her old band with Kittie, and now she's actually in one of the Arch Enemy, one of the biggest metal bands in the world. So it's really cool to have been able to watch her take off that way. So I got hooked up with it is. That was a very cool experience to witness happen to a friend. That was like, wow, that's the Mr. Big dream moment. But of course she worked for it. Mm-hmm. So then I started working with Jasmine, and Jasmine writes all the songs. The project was a band previously, and now it's more like her project. And then I just get to, like I said, like she allows me to treat her music like my own personal playground. And it's made it so that like I've learned how to be a better recording artist because of hacking out like the secondary guitar parts and like the simplification sometimes. And in that project, I purposely hit wrong notes. I know she's going to love it if it sounds sour sometimes. And so I'll do tricks like I detune one of the strings on my guitar, or like a couple, and then it blocks scales from my brain, or like it interrupts the patterns. And then so I get a little bit more access to like a little bit more creativity that way. But then, I get to make my pedals sound ridiculous in it. I'll play slide guitar. I don't really play slide guitar, but I play slide guitar on the project sometimes, I know that if I throw down something that sounds wild and ridiculous, she's going to love it. And it's
great.
Mm-hmm. It's so fun. And then from there, I got a call from Jeff Dalziel one day, another Toronto producer guy, really great guy. And he said, hey, I've got this country band. They're looking for a guitar player for the summer. Just need to hire you on, blah, blah, blah. I said, I do not play country. And I said, I'm sorry, that is one genre that I do not know. And he said, no, it's okay. He described the girls to me, and, like a couple master's degrees in music in the band. That was nice to hear. And then Kittie, one of the lead singers, there's two lead singers in the project. She used to be in a band that I really liked. And I remember being, Jackalope,
right?
Jackalope.
Yeah.
I was like, the blonde singer? And he was like, yes. I said, I have been a fan of that woman's voice since that band came out. She has such a unique voice that I was like, okay, hold on one second. Are they early 20s? Because I'm not early 20s, as FYI. And he's like, no. You're the same age as them. You're good to go. And so, yeah, I jumped into that. I met them. I was like, this is
Nice Horse.
They are the nicest people in the world.
Yeah.
And that was like 5 years ago, I guess. And they've all become like my best friends.
As they were making a record, or as they were about to go on tour? How
just did that? Like summer touring. So, and also as like, I was working as like the hired side guy at that moment. And like a summer full of gigs is pretty enticing. And so that was nice to see. And yeah, as I got to know them, I just continued our relationship, and now I'm an actual member of their band, and like our working relationship is great. We have had several side projects together, to get us through the pandemic. We made a comprehensive scheduling touring app called Bandy that we've
you got to tell me. Yeah. I've seen the posts about this, and so this is basically for touring musicians,
this is for touring anyone actually, or scheduling anyone. So we did. We absolutely did approach it as a musicians app, but then we quickly realized that there are so many different people whoever tours for a living or just needs like a comprehensive scheduling app, you can use it. But yes, we did make it. We made it for ourselves. And then as we were bringing like more techs on, more sound, my front of house guys, they were like, this should be available to the public. And so that's when we went real hard with like some developers, and we hired, like a proper team to help us finish it up. And it took a long time. And especially because we were just in beta testing phases as the pandemic started, just when everyone stopped scheduling things. And so that set us back. But also in hindsight, we probably needed the 3 years to get everything together with it, like to get the actual app working. And when we have like just released it. So yeah, it is something that we're super proud of.
And this came out of a necessity that you like, it's something that you wanted to have available. Well, nothing like that existed. And so you created it.
No. And like, actually, it was a spreadsheet that Brandy had created. Brandy, our bass player / lead singer. And we were working off this spreadsheet. And it is one of the first things that I said to Nice Horse when I started working with them is like, do you guys realize that you're the most organized band on the face of the planet? I have never worked for a group like you guys. I've never experienced this before. For the record, everyone is very last minute with a lot of information. And it is such a luxury to work for you guys. Like, you guys, this is a luxury. Like, this is not how the industry operates, like for everyone. And there are other scheduling touring apps out there, obviously, but they are a bit too financially restrictive to the position that we are when we started to create Bandy. And that is specifically why Bandy is very affordable. And the product that we have, we believe has a lot of value in it. But our goal was for indie bands, any band. If you're making like a jug of beer for your gig, you can still afford the app. Like we went into it with that in mind. And when we got to the end of the project, I thought we cannot shift that. And so we were like, anyone who can use it or who feel like that would be valuable for them to not have it be financially prohibitive.
That's amazing. So it's a one-time fee, or is it a subscription-based model?
So it's subscription. You can go month to month, or you can go annually. But obviously annually is a little better. But yeah, I mean, when you put it into like, this is how I like to define it in terms of coffees. In terms of coffees, it's very cheap.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's extremely affordable.
Yeah. It would be of service to people. Right. And just, if you make it affordable to everybody, then it's of interest to way more people. Absolutely. Yeah.
And it is like the juxtaposition of me like working in other groups sometimes, and like with Nice Horse and with Bandy, it is very clear how useful that app is, because it feels like I know nothing about the gig I'm going to. And with Bandy, it's like I know every single detail down to whether there's tea on the rider or not, or like whether I should pack a lunch or like what will be provided, and like is super useful.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Are you still on tour buses, or is everyone packed into a bus or a van or a car? Or
we're very much in vans and cars.
Okay.
And I guess like because I have been working for more Canadian bands recently, there's not so much like touring here. There's like runs, I guess, like a run of like 4 to 10 shows is kind of the norm up here. Whereas like in my touring days with like No Joy is very US based as well. And Kittie. I mean, we were in buses with Kittie because we could afford that, but also like 2 months in a car is a little too much. And with No Joy, it is like van touring, but up here it's like 4 shows at a time, basically. So
I think there's such distance between locations.
You are right. As the one saving grace about working in a Canadian country music band is we can hit the smaller cities. And so we can get like the Medicine Hats and the Reginas, as well as the Saskatoons and Edmonton's, Calgarys. So we can kind of spread it out a little bit more because it's definitely a rural crowd. It's an everybody crowd, but very heavy on the rural people.
Yeah. So then your maximum distance that you'd be driving would be about 4 hours then, instead of 16 hours to get from Toronto to Winnipeg or something.
Yeah. There's not so much of that, and if there is, we fly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Do you bring different gear for different shows? Do you have a different set of pedals and guitars that you would bring out, or could you take me through some of that?
I used to up until recently. So I was definitely like a stomp box. I still love them, but I have officially shifted into one of the digital units. So I use a neural unit. And so I can go in and make myself like scenes basically of each band that I work with. So they're just titled the band, and then I can create different scenes out of there, like per song when I would like to. But it is I'm finding it's a really big luxury, and it was hard to peel an amp out of my hands, but I am finding this because of the nature of the different gigs too. And just like bopping around and being able to have like, it's pretty much the exact same size as my computer. Just having that in a road case that I can even carry on to an airplane. And then I know everything's going to sound the exact same every single time. I don't have to worry about backline amps, even though my experience with backline amps is actually pretty good. And my stomp boxes, it eliminates the, every little tiny connector cable between all your pedals. When one of them goes down, you have to like start wiggling every one of them, and it's like troubleshooting. The nice thing is that just doesn't exist. Or, we changed the set list last minute recently at a gig for Nice Horse, and I needed a specific pedal for the song that we were playing. Now, had I not, if I had my stomp boxes, I wouldn't have packed it, but I was able to just like boop, 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 pull up that pedal and get her in there. And definitely concede there's nothing like playing an amplifier with some stomp boxes. That is the best feeling. But these units are becoming so good, and they sound so real. And but most importantly, like they feel so real when you're playing it, because there are some of them that just don't, like, it's just like the tiniest difference of feel. And like, even if like the smallest amount of latency gets in there, you can just feel it in your fingertips. And the one that I have it's definitely working for me.
Oh, fantastic. I love the fact that the technology has got to a place where you can just bring it onto the airplane if you want. And you could probably even in your hotel plug headphones into it and be able to audition lots of sounds. Yeah, fantastic.
You can.
So you could
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, you could be blasting at like 2 a.m. in your hotel room, and nobody can hear what you're doing. It's great. And
also, like, I'm self-sufficient. I don't need anything. I don't need any help with a cabinet. No one has to, like, I'm also very conscious of the older you get, the more this stuff's going to start hurting your back and your shoulders and all the joints. And so this is a good solution there too. But I do like to be able to just roll in guitar on my back, pedal board in my hand. That's my amp. That's my pedals. That's everything. I'm good to go.
So is it one guitar? Is it two guitars that you would travel with plus?
I usually just bring one, which is, I never used to. When I was younger, I always brought two. I've been bringing one, and this hasn't bit me yet. We'll see.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. Acoustic? Are you playing acoustic ever live on stage? Sometimes. In like the band that I'm gigging with the most right now is Nice Horse, and Kittie is like our designated acoustic / banjo player. So she usually takes all the acoustic parts. There's a song that I'll jump on for, but I love playing acoustic guitar, but I adore playing electric guitar. It is definitely where I like really I have
feel it.
Two guitars behind me right here, and I wish that I could play them. I really do. It's just my whole world has been hands in front and pressing down. It's a very percussive based thing. It's all percussion. And that just makes so much sense to me. And then to change it so that your hands are now this way and you've got a pick or finger or whatever it is that you're using. And there's so many variables in a guitar in order to get a great sound.
It truly is such a wonky instrument though, right? It doesn't, I guess when I really analyze it, because I have why is my left hand doing the really intricate movements? But then when you really get into it and dig in, your right hand really is as well. Oh yeah. In a different way. Yeah. And it's the pulling against your body while pushing as well. It's such an interesting instrument, but I will say if you dive into your acoustic a little more, I do find my approach to electric and acoustic are so different. I got a great lesson working for Classic Albums Live, and I was playing on their David Bowie show, and we were doing the Ziggy Stardust albums. Cool. And I was tasked on acoustic, and that is how I learned how to actually play acoustic guitar, is with that group and that specific album, because if you listen to it, it is so percussive. The acoustic guitar is so present in that album, and it just drives the whole album. All the songs are really, it's just so present. And one of the best compliments I got was from, we were in Los Angeles, and they had two session guys come out to do the drums and the bass. So I got to kind of get a nod from the rhythm section, where they were that the percussive stuff you're doing on the acoustic is great. It's okay, cool. Amazing. Because I'm usually the meadly guy. And so to be that was it was really cool. And then especially to get the rhythm, the approval from the rhythm section. Because I always joke, I would say and I really mean this, electric guitar is the most irresponsible instrument you can choose on stage. The drums got to hold it together. The bass has got to get locked in with the drums. The acoustic's got to drive it. I don't even really have to play the whole time. I can just slide in as I please. It's such an irresponsible one. And it's the one that people think is so cool. So it's the real star. I mean, it really is. It's just everyone's watching that guitar. Everyone's waiting for it to say something and to do something wild. Yeah. And I'm always I give so much credit to bass and drums, especially drummers now who are actually especially with tracks implemented, they're keeping the whole thing together. Yeah. And I have so much respect for them, and I want nothing to do with their jobs. I'll just take mine and meadly in here and there. I love how you describe what it is that you do when in actual fact it's of such importance, and the guitar is so amazing. Yeah, it's incredible. It's what's the chord? I don't remember. Whoosh, fingers down the strings. That sounded cool, didn't it? That's so great. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm curious, do you have any heroes? Any female guitar heroes? Okay, well, I have some very incredible peers at the moment, which is it's awesome that Nita Strauss has now become a pal of mine, which I'm sure most people are familiar with her. If you're not, she's kind of like the side guy. She plays with Alice Cooper, Demi Lovato when she can now, and she has her own solo gig going, and she's absolutely crushing it, and it is so cool to be her friend. There's Dude, yeah. But like as far as growing up, okay, Morgan Lander, the singer slash guitar player from Kittie, I always have to give her, like when people ask female guitar players, I'm like, she's the one that people don't like put the pats on her back because I do the Meadly shit. Whenever I walk over to her side of the stage and hear her rhythm playing, it is so impressive. I am so awed by how she is singing slash screaming, and her rhythm playing is so tight. She doesn't drop a note. It is since I started playing with them until present day, I am so astounded by her abilities. It is wild. I appreciate being in a band with her. It's really cool.
Wow.
Because I've learned so much about speed picking and rhythm playing from her, just simply by having to keep up. But like when I was growing up, there wasn't so much like lead guitar players. Like Bonnie Raitt really got me because she's one of those guitar players that woman can play one note and you know it's Bonnie. Like yes. That is magic. That is like Stevie Ray Vaughan could play like a lick. You know that's his hands.
Totally.
Like it's incredible. And she's got like that little slide sound. It's like Bonnie immediately. So I loved her. Jennifer Batten, obviously. But I will say like I hadn't really gotten into shred yet. And she's like the best shredder. But from there, it was like, anytime I saw like a woman playing guitar, I was like, yes. And so that was like Veruca Salt. I thought they were so cool. Looking back on their albums, I've revisited them. Excellent goddamn songwriters. So good. I just liked what they were doing. I love the tunes. I was really, really into Sheryl Crow growing up. Like that specifically, when asked, I always reference the second and third album.
Oh, yes. The second one is so good. If it makes you happy.
Dude, she produced that. Yeah. Like, imagine, like, okay, so her first, the Tuesday Night Music Club, the first record, it was so great. I love that album dearly too, but I know that she was accused of just being kind of like the face of it. And she's a musician. That woman is a musician. She sang backup. She was on tour with Michael Jackson.
That's right.
Don Henley's the one who told her to go have her own career. Yeah. She was a music teacher. She's got music teacher parents. She is like musician parents. She is a musician's musician. And I also learned a lot from her growing up because I would, like when the internet was a thing, I would go on the internet and I would look up her set lists and I would find the covers that she was playing. And then I would find those albums, I would buy those albums, and then I would learn those songs and the albums. And so like that was like the introduction of the internet in that way. Amazing, because that's another way that I got my musical education.
That's so true.
Literally,
that's so true. But that second record, what else is on there? Every Day is a Winding Road is on that one as well.
It's like the whole record front to back. Like there's some weird, I was just talking to Krista from Nice Horse about this because we're actually about to go into the studio again, and the producer who we're working with had suggested maybe like some Sheryl Crow, and I was like, Krista, second and third album, listen to them over and over again. It's got like the craziest sounds on it, like detuned guitars, like she screams at one point on it, and like the songs are like, they're great, and then there's some weird stuff, and all the sounds, like it's like, this is her. Like I was so impressed. I think she should produce more. Like after learning that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so she was always playing guitar, and I thought that was really cool. And then of course Courtney Love always had a guitar in her hand, and then another Canadian, Melissa Oftamar, who was playing in Hole for a period of time, and I think she was in Pumpkins too. Jenny V, another bass player from Canada, also played in Pumpkins. Like this is really cool. Like the 90s, I was under the impression that women were kind of killing it, and like hearing Garbage from a person like Shirley Manson talk about openly like what the experience were actually like damn, that sounds like they were really being put through it. But me as a kid at that era, I really benefited from them like sticking around. So like my respect and appreciation will always be there, like especially knowing how difficult it was for them. And for me to be like, I probably won't be here without you ladies. So like, sorry it sucks so bad, but you guys did it for us.
Here's a question for you. Have you had any difficulty along the way that you could give some advice to the next generation that maybe they can sort of steer around something that you had to go through?
Yeah, here's what I would say. I try and focus on the positive. I have lost gigs because I'm a female, but I have gotten gigs because I'm a female. And so the one thing that I wish people would stop doing is just assume they're going to be shitty. I have walked into so many gigs where I've been kind of treated in a disrespectful manner, mostly from house techs, just because I guess the female before me wasn't up to snuff. And I just keep my head down. It's cool. Like, I'll play the gig and I'll get the pat on the back after. I know it comes 100% of the time. And that's not to be arrogant. It's just my experience is like, keep my head down, be polite. And it sucks because I heard Sarah Silverman say it in regards to being a comedian. You have to be undeniable. And that's what you have to do. You have to show up, be kind, be undeniable. I think the advice that I would give though is like, keep your head down. Don't be distracted by the barriers. Earn your skill, work it out, become as good as you can. I think we're approaching a place where you do not need to be undeniably good now. You can be like, because there needs to be a space for people to, like, sorry to say it, but we gotta suck. And we need to do it on a couple stages, you know? Mm-hmm. And there needs to be a space for that. But I think I'm always focused on like, don't get distracted by trying to knock down doors. You will knock down doors. You will if you hone in on your craft. You know, and yeah, I mean, for this reason, I actually give, like, as far as Alberta goes, like, I will give out free guitar lessons to the ladies. And like, if a young man approach me, of course, I would also teach them. But I feel very passionately because I did not have a place to ask questions. I'm almost just being able to start asking questions now because I was embarrassed about not knowing things. And then when you're embarrassed about not knowing things and you're like, they're going to know I don't know anything. But I have like a lot of the young ladies out here know I have like an open door policy, an open cell phone policy. Just text me. And like, you got a question? I'll answer it. You want to jump on Skype? You want me to make you a video? I'll do it. It's all good. I'm just trying to make it so like, if you feel like there's a barrier, maybe I can help you out here because I've already been through it. I know how much it sucks to be like, so what's the difference between like a trem that like has like the squiggle line or like if it has like the block, like what's going on here? And, or like, honestly, something as simple as like, what is gain? That's such a basic question that it's hard to ask. It's like, what is going on with gain? What does this even mean? Or like anything. But yeah.
But again, it's easy once you know, right? It's just there's a lot of information out there that people just don't know. And it's great if you can give back. And just what might seem as the simplest answer to you is a game changer for somebody else.
Mm-hmm. And I also understand how difficult it is to ask a question because then you're kind of outing yourself for like, I don't know. And now everyone knows I don't know.
But there are no stupid questions.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Yeah.
If I'd much rather the person ask and that they get to know that they or at least they get my answer from it. And maybe they can ask somebody else and get a different answer from it too. And then they can take those two answers, put them together and decide what works for them best.
Speaking of which, that's another piece of advice that I sometimes give people is like, get used to wearing your headphones. Like, and what I don't mean, I mean like metaphorical headphones. Everyone is going to tell you their opinion. Listen, but everyone has their opinion and everyone has their experience. And then you just have to figure out your own. And if you strongly disagree with one opinion that worked or one method that worked for someone else, you like really, really, really disagree with it, then don't do it. Like,
and unfortunately, there's a lot of people that give the advice, don't do it.
I know.
That's the worst. I would tell everybody that ever receives that information, please just let that go in one ear and out the other. Yep. Do always whatever's in your heart.
Yes.
Whatever you wake up thinking about doing, that this is something that excites you, that's your target. And then somebody comes along and says, don't do that. Don't follow that target. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Please let that just disappear into the thin air, you know?
I mean, that in itself is great advice because it is hard and it's hard because I know like a lot of people are trying to make a career out of it. And there's many ways to make a career out of this. And, you just have to pick the path that you feel, like you said, like passionately about, because what's the point in doing art for a living if you don't feel passionately about it?
Right.
It's just, it'll suck your soul away.
Yeah. And even if you have one target and you're working towards that, and halfway towards that target, you realize, well, it's not quite that. It's that plus something else. It's totally okay to shift your target over to another side and start moving towards that. Or even deciding the entire target is not exactly what I want. It's actually over here. Go ahead and try it. As long as nobody is getting hurt, go ahead, do it. Do whatever your dream currently is.
Yeah.
Always
as long as
that.
Yeah, it's got to fill you up, because what the hell is the point? You might as well go get a job that you will get paid consistently every second week. Like, why would you take these risks if it doesn't boost you? It's not worth it if it doesn't boost you, because you might never be able to sustain your life off of this, but it's a risk that's worth taking, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And obviously for you too. And but it's hard. It's really hard. I think, yeah.
I am speechless after hearing these words. This is fantastic advice that you just gave. Amazing. I've enjoyed this so much, and I know your time is limited. I don't mean to take up too much of your time, but
Rob Wells, for you, you can have any amount of time.
Likewise.
I'm such a fan. Yeah.
No, well, you're also somebody that just instantly said yes to me when I was putting together those COVID music videos back in 2020 or whatever. You were right away just like, you want guitar on Living on a Prayer? Yes, I'm there. And then Orrin Isaacs was a part of that as well. And then Orrin Isaacs, another really great Canadian musician, arranger, songwriter, producer, all of the above. He reached out to me and said, yo, who was that? Who was on guitar? Like, can I get her information? And I reached out to you. I said, is it okay? Can I send Orrin your information? And then tell us quickly what
Man, I was just going to say, like, and then you made the connect. Like, this is the beautiful thing about the music industry is we're
good people connecting good people.
Oh, yes. And like, honestly, I think you get a real boost from it too. I love the feeling of connecting people together. And I'm not doing it like, I don't need to be involved at all. It brings me so much pride to be able to do that. I love that. So I can understand how you're feeling here, because you've started such a wonderful friendship / working relationship for Orrin and I. I love that man so much.
Yes.
And he has, so like you made that hookup for me. I got to play the Junos because we did a song about a trampoline together. And then like through like the path of us, like, I like your social media. I like what you've got to say. I like that you like space too. I like that you are like obviously a person with a lot of depth, and you're like a brilliant human being. So I really do like you and respect you as a person. Yeah. I'm not trying to butter you up too much. It's just like truly how I feel about you. It's like very respectful of how you come about things, like from a social angle too. Anyway, so that was all really nice. And then I got a call from Orrin like, hey, you want to play the Junos? It's like, yeah.
For those of you that don't know, the Junos in Canada, it's kind of like Canada's Grammys, the Grammy Awards, and you got to play on stage for that. It was fantastic.
Awesome. And then he called me like 3 days later and been like, you want to jump into the Canada's Got Talent house band? Since you're going to be there, might as well come with me to Niagara Falls. We'll shoot that. So I got to do that. And then I got to do it a second time with him. And he basically he throws gigs at me all the time now. And if I can do them, I do them. And if I can't, that's just the way it is. But and then he also, because of the video that you put together, the pandemic video, he sent me a picture because we did play together on Canada's Got Talent. The two of us were like on a riser next to each other, just having a blast. And he sent me the picture that you had put the two of us in the actual clip together side by side. And we're like, Rob knew it was coming. We were going to play together. Yeah.
But, like, it's no wonder why you are so busy, because you're so talented. You have great stage presence, and you're fantastic to hang out with, as evident in this recording right now. You're just such an easy hang, and we can talk about anything under the sun. And that's a lot. All those things, they keep you very busy. Also, you've got such a great sense of drive. The fact that you went from small town to London to Toronto to LA to playing on all the world stages and everything. It's no wonder why this is all happening for you, and it's going to keep happening for you.
Oh, thanks, Rob.
Time goes on, you're going to have a fantastic life of just filled with music, and we have to do a part 2 where we can continue and see what's going on in your life at that point. I would love to. Anytime. I thank you so much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And
yeah, thank you, Rob. Yeah, I appreciate getting to talk to you today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Women in the Music Industry, and we'll be back next week with another one. Take care, everyone. Stay tuned for the next episode of Women in the Music Industry, coming soon. Let's embark on this incredible journey together, celebrating the women who are reshaping the music business one note at a time. If you enjoyed hearing this podcast, please take a moment and give it a like, a rating, or a follow. Your support helps immensely. We'll see you next time.